Good morning, America, for our viewers in the West. The race for the White House heating up this morning. On the trail, Governor Tim Walz makes his first solo stop courting union workers and defending his military record. The Harris campaign emphasizing its union ties. As Donald Trump gets back on the campaign trail in swing states, the economy taking center stage in the race for the White House this week.
Overnight, Tropical Storm Ernesto on the move, lasting Puerto Rico and striking the Caribbean. Where the storm is headed next as it gains strength, Ginger has the track and timing.
This morning, the new lawsuit against General Motors over the company's data tracking. What it could mean for your privacy on the road.
New development in the Alex Murdaugh double murder trial. Why the former lawyer is one step closer to a possible retrial in the killing of his wife and son.
New twist in the bronze medal battle. What we're learning about the head of the panel that stripped Jordan Child of her medal in floor exercise.
Dramatic rescue. Newly released body camera footage shows a police officer racing to save a woman trapped in her car underwater after her son flagged him down.
She sunk! She's in the water!
Oh, come on.
Good Samaritans jumped in to help. Back to school scam warning. The new alert about fraudsters targeting shoppers as kids head back to the classroom. How to spot a potential scam.
Cell phone crackdown, the movement to restrict phones in schools, how one state is pushing to keep them out of the hands of kids in the classroom.
Shut up and drive.
And honking mad.
It'll be honk, 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 honk.
Why some self-driving cars in San Francisco have been blaring their horns, and what the neighbors have been saying about losing sleep to the noise.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
Good morning, America. Thank you for being with us on this Wednesday morning.
And we have the latest on inflation. New numbers are out this morning, what they could mean for the Federal Reserve's next move, plus the new warning from Home Depot.
Yeah, a lot of people keeping an eye on that. First, the race for the White House. Vice President Harris's running mate, Governor Tim Walz, made his first solo campaign stop as Donald Trump gets back on the trail. Selina Wang is tracking it all from Washington. Good morning, Selina.
Good morning, George. J.D. Vance and other Republicans are attacking Governor Walz for retiring from military service before his unit was deployed to Iraq. Governor Walz is also under fire for saying in 2018 that he carried weapons in war even though he never saw active combat. The Harris campaign later saying that he misspoke. Governor Walz, he is now hitting the campaign trail and defending his military record. Overnight, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz defending his military record after relentless attacks from Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, who've accused Walz of lying about his military record.
I'm going to say it again as clearly as I can. I am damn proud of my service to this country. And I firmly believe you should never denigrate another person's service record.
Walz retired from the National Guard after more than 2 decades of service to run for Congress, hitting back at attacks from fellow veteran Vance, who also never saw active combat.
Anyone brave enough to put on that uniform for our great country, including my opponent, I just have a few simple words. Thank you for your service and sacrifice.
And slamming Trump as out of touch with working class America.
Can you simply picture Donald Trump working at a McDonald's trying to make a McFlurry or something? Oh, he knows us. He couldn't run that damn McFlurry machine if it cost him anything, so.
As the Harris campaign emphasizes its union ties, the United Auto Workers Union filing complaints with the National Labor Relations Board against Trump and billionaire Elon Musk after their conversation on X, claiming they're threatening striking workers.
I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay, you're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone.
Even Teamsters boss Sean O'Brien, who spoke at the Republican convention, saying firing workers for organizing, striking, and exercising their rights as Americans is economic terrorism. This morning, Trump getting back on the campaign trail in swing states after a week and a half away. Speaking in North Carolina this afternoon as some Republicans push to keep their candidate focused on issues like inflation and immigration instead of insulting Vice President Kamala Harris. In response to the UAW charge, the Trump campaign is saying, quote, this frivolous lawsuit is a shameless political stunt intended to erode President Trump's overwhelming support among America's workers. Now, both Trump and Harris are claiming that they would do more to help working class Americans. Harris herself is also planning to roll out her economic vision later this week. George?
Okay, Selina, thanks. And of course, the context for the Trump campaign's attacks on military services that the former president himself avoided service in Vietnam, claiming bone spurs. Thanks very much. Robin?
All right, George. Turning now to Ernesto, the storm lashing Puerto Rico and now on the move. So let's turn to Ginger with the track and timing. Good morning, Ginger.
Hey, good morning. So we didn't even see a landfall, but more than 300,000 people in Puerto Rico are already without power. And you don't need a landfall, you just need a storm really close, and that's exactly what Ernesto has done. So it passed to the east of it. It's now well north of San Juan, more than 85 miles to the north-northwest. This was video where they saw gusts easily of 74 miles per hour plus. So they had hurricane-force gusts, but on top of that, some of the islands to the east, U.S., British, and Virgin Islands, 86 mile per hour gusts. There's the storm right now. You can see the broad impacts from clouds and then the radar where it's kind of tapping into that deep tropical moisture. San Juan itself in a flash flood warning right now. That means you do not want to be out in that driving. It can easily add up, definitely in the rainforest where they have that elevation. That's where you see flash flooding, and the warnings go all the way back to the South Shore. We're going to keep that up until about noon or 1 p.m. Then it will start to pull north, more so toward Bermuda. It will also become a hurricane today, and it looks like it could become a major hurricane by early Friday morning as it approaches Bermuda. Bermuda is very sound when it comes to hurricanes, but that's going to be a rough Saturday, so we're going to be watching that closely. For us, it's high surf and rip currents, but thankfully we keep that trough that kicks it away from Maine to Florida. Nova Scotia, I'd still be on alert.
All right, Ginger. Thank you. That was a lot there. Thank you so much. We're going to turn now to the diplomatic efforts to head off a wider war in the Middle East and restart Gaza ceasefire talks. Foreign correspondent Soufi Burridge is in Tel Aviv with the latest for us. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Michael. Yeah, President Biden indicating Iran could hold off attacking Israel if a Gaza ceasefire deal is possible. The U.S. working flat out to get Israel and Hamas back around the negotiating table tomorrow. Even before then, U.S. diplomats in Cairo trying to find a solution for one of the major sticking points in the talks. Meanwhile, the IDF saying it's continuing to strike Hamas infrastructure throughout the Gaza Strip. This Palestinian father overcome by grief after an Israeli strike hit his apartment, killing his newborn baby twins and his wife. The death toll in Gaza now just short of 40,000, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Overnight, the State Department approving the sale of $20 billion worth of weaponry to Israel as the Israeli military and the Pentagon remain on high alert for possible retaliatory strikes by Iran or Hezbollah for those two assassinations in Tehran and Beirut 2 weeks ago. And a statement just in from a top U.S. official in the region saying a diplomatic solution is urgently needed because no one wants a wider war between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Robin?
No one wants that. Thank you so much for your reporting, Tom. Now to the war in Ukraine. Russia fighting back after Ukraine's surprise advance. Ian Panel has the latest. Good morning to you, Ian.
Yeah, good morning, Robin. Another region of Russia declaring a state of emergency over Ukraine's audacious operation across the border. Overnight, the governor of the border region of Belgorod calling the situation very difficult following attacks by Ukrainian forces, saying houses are destroyed, civilians dead and injured. Belgorod, of course, as you know, has been used to launch consistent deadly attacks on Ukraine. Russian troops seen captured and taken prisoner as Kyiv pounds the Russian border region of Kursk, which neighbours Belgorod, with missiles and drones, claiming control of almost 80 settlements. It's also struck 3 Russian airfields overnight, one more than 380 miles inside Russia itself. Ukraine's shock counter-invasion catching the Kremlin and Putin's army totally off guard. Now they're trying to rush men, munitions into place to try and drive the Ukrainians out. There is some sign of Ukrainian forces starting to dig in while others are trying to advance, with fierce firefights reported. A senior Russian military officials now vowing to launch an all-out offensive to drive the Ukrainians out. But this has been a major blow to Putin and his war plan in Ukraine. And I think 2 key questions. One, can Ukraine hold on to the territory, or can Vladimir Putin reassert control of his own backyard? George?
Ian Panel, thanks. There's new reporting this morning about Hunter Biden's business dealings. The New York Times reports that he tried to get help from the U.S. Embassy in Italy for an energy deal while his father was vice president. Senior national correspondent Terry Moran is in Washington with the story. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, George. For years, reporters and some Republican lawmakers have been investigating whether Hunter Biden was trading off of his father's name to make money on business ventures overseas when Joe Biden was vice president. Now, the New York Times reports that Hunter Biden, while his father was serving as Barack Obama's vice president, wrote to the U.S. ambassador in Italy seeking assistance for the Ukrainian energy company Burisma while Hunter Biden was on the board of that company. Burisma wanted to do business in Italy. The Times reports that the U.S. Embassy officials appear to have been uneasy with this request, one writing, quote, "I do not want to promise too much." An attorney for Hunter Biden confirms that he did ask the U.S. ambassador, among other people, for help. The attorney goes on to say that no project or even meeting ever happened after Biden's request. The New York Times also reports that it has fought the federal government for years to obtain these documents, but their request was only granted days after President Biden withdrew from the presidential campaign. George?
And Terry, Hunter Biden also facing trial in September.
He is facing trial. Hunter Biden is accused, among other things in that case, of not reporting income from foreign businesses, including Burisma. And last week, in a court filing in that case, prosecutors say they now have evidence that Hunter Biden contacted the State Department on behalf of an executive from Romania, also while his father was vice president. Jury selection in that case begins September 5th. George?
Terry Moran, thanks, Robin.
And George, now to the new lawsuit against General Motors over the company's data tracking, claiming it could lead to higher car insurance rates. Trevor Alt has those details for us. Good morning, Trevor.
Good morning, Robin. So the Texas Attorney General says GM installed data collection software on more than 14 million vehicles. This was information about when and how people were driving, and they were selling that information to car insurance companies, sometimes costing drivers serious money in the process.
This morning, General Motors in the hot seat. Texas suing the car maker, claiming GM violated the privacy of millions of Americans. The lawsuit claims the company misled customers into sharing data about their driving habits by enrolling them in technology-enabled safety programs and then selling that information collected by those programs to data brokers. That data on customers' driving habits allegedly ended up in the hands of insurance companies, prompting them to raise some customers' rates.
This is the beginning of an era where we will continue to be connected in every possible way. Cars might seem like the last bastion of this cocoon-like environment, but it's one more thing that's getting connected.
The lawsuit comes months after a New York Times investigation revealed GM and other automakers were selling customers' data, including the start and end times of trips and even instances of speeding or hard braking. The Texas Attorney General says millions of American drivers wanted to buy a car, not a comprehensive surveillance system. A General Motors spokesperson says the company has been in discussions with the Attorney General's office and says, quote, "We share the desire to protect consumers' privacy."
And this lawsuit says the technology was installed on most vehicles model year 2015 and afterward. And the state wants GM to pay fines and compensation to drivers and to delete all this data they say was collected illegally. Michael?
All right, Trevor, thank you. We're going to turn now to the new development in the Alex Murdaugh case. The South Carolina Supreme Court said it will hear his jury tampering appeal, which brings him one step closer to a possible retrial. Eva Pilgrim has been following this story from the start, and it keeps on going on.
Yeah, the latest twist here this morning in a surprise ruling, the South Carolina Supreme Court agreeing to hear Alex Murdaugh's jury tampering appeal. In a July filing, Murdaugh's lawyers arguing to the Supreme Court, common sense says that when an elected state official goes into the jury room during a murder trial to advocate for a guilty verdict because she wants to make money selling books about the guilty verdict, the result should be a mistrial. Now, this decision overturning a January hearing where former Chief Justice Jean Toll denied Murdaugh a new trial after allegations of jury tampering by court clerk Becky Hill. The Supreme Court will now consider whether Murdaugh should be granted a new trial. Previously, 3 of the 12 jurors saying court clerk Becky Hill talked about Murdaugh with them. It was Hill that read that guilty verdict at Murdaugh's trial 6 months later, writing a book about it all. She's facing 76 counts of misconduct with connection to improperly seeking financial gain and will appear before the State Ethics Commission in December. Now, Hill denies any wrongdoing. Murdaugh, meanwhile, is serving life without parole in state prison after a jury found him guilty of killing his wife and son. We, of course, will continue to follow this case.
Thank you, Eva. We're going to turn now to the economy. The latest report on inflation and the economic warning from one of the nation's largest retailers. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, George. Inflation reached a key milestone in this report, now below 3% for the first time since 2021. And the reason we watch this so closely is because it will determine what the Federal Reserve does when it meets in September and whether it cuts interest rates for the first time in over 4 years. While consumers and businesses are still stretched by prices considerably higher than they were 3 years ago, today's report means there is a very good chance of a rate cut next month. And where you see prices falling the most is in new and used vehicles, toys, and airfare. One of the areas, shelter, has been a big driver of inflation. It continued to climb, but rents are rising at their lowest rate since 2022. And economists predict that that trend will continue, which is exactly what you want to see, because where people are really getting stretched right now is in 3 areas: gasoline, shelter, and food costs. And we are starting to see all of those trend lower, George.
And Rebecca, we have that possible recession warning from Home Depot.
Yeah, very much attention being paid to this warning. Obviously, Home Depot is an incredibly important retailer. They serve so much of the economy, and consumer sentiment has been mixed despite what has continued to be a relatively healthy economy. When you look at the jobs rate, unemployment still near its lowest in many, many years. And you also have issues like the housing market. That's still at a bit of a standstill. So with this question of where interest rates go next, Home Depot is predicting that it will take time before people start engaging in home improvement. Because the housing market has been at such a standstill, they have seen their business slow down. Once interest rates start to drop, again predicted to happen next month, they could see the housing market start to pick up more as more people decide to list their homes, because they actually have more buyers out there who are interested, because those buyers, George, can get access to mortgages that are far more affordable than they have been.
Interest rates affect everyone. Okay,
they do.
Thank you.